I grew up on the internet, right? I actually grew up selectively mute. So for a number of years, I didn't really say much. And I also grew up in the era of like having a computer room in your house. And so basically for a lot of my childhood, I was just hanging out on the computer,
Right.
hanging out on Minecraft, playing RuneScape. I had a Tumblr blog, all of these things. And a lot of my closest friends growing up actually came from these online networks. And so I don't think it's a net bad thing that we spend more time online.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about you grew up selectively mute. This was from the age, if I read correctly, of 5 to 10 years old.
Yeah.
Does it feel like now the world's kind of catching up to what you saw back then?
It feels very full circle. I mean, it's interesting. Much of my career started during COVID, and I think largely I was able to kind of thrive in that environment because I was so comfortable living kind of a digital life and having a sense of a digital identity because it had been part of my life for so long. And now, particularly during COVID, the rest of the world has kind of caught up to it of, where do we find community? How do we create a sense of identity online and how do we portray ourselves? I read a statistic recently, I think it was like 60% of Gen Z think that their identity online is more important and they care about it more than their identity offline. So, certainly I think that's only going to increase. And so ways to kind of create that sense of a holistic identity, I think is really important. You think of like fragmentation between Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and every platform, and you're kind of a different person on all of them, right? Like I'm honest on all of them, but me on LinkedIn is not necessarily me on Twitter, and it's definitely not me on Instagram on my close friend's story, right? And so how do we kind of create a sense of an identity that you can kind of take with you between these platforms? That sense of interoperability is huge in Web3. And then most importantly, a sense of identity that you actually own.